Today's video lesson is 2.9, problem solving with division. The learning intention is to be able to solve word problems that deal with division. Our success criteria is to understand the just by reading it two ways, determine what you need to find out, work the problem, in this case divide, and there will also be some other operations, explain the dividend, divisor, quotient, and remainder, answer the question, of course, with the correct units of measurement. The prerequisites for being able to do this lesson are here, which is story comprehension. You need to know what the dividend, divisor, quotient, remainder are, and then you need to be able to divide and then multiply. We'll start with our first example problem, reading it two ways. The first time, just reading it through. Sean and his family chartered a fishing boat for the day. Sean caught a blue marlin and an amberjack. The weight of the blue marlin was 12 times as great as the amberjack. The combined weight of both fish was 273 pounds. How much did each fish weigh? The next time I read it through, I'm getting an understanding more. Sean and his family chartered a fishing boat for the day. I even stop and pause and I see them in a boat. Sean caught a blue marlin and an amberjack. I see him with two fish in both hands, or two fish, one in each hand. The weight of the blue marlin was 12 times as great as the amberjack. I see him with the blue marlin and it's a lot bigger than the amberjack in the other hand. In fact, it's 12 times bigger than the amberjack. The combined weight of both fish is 273 pounds. Now I see him putting both fish onto the weight scale and together they weigh 273 pounds. So now I'm going to go ahead and look at the question so I can start doing the work. How much does each fish weigh? So now that I know what I need to find out, I'm going to go ahead and start working the problem. But before I do that, I'm going to even just process and think about my information. So far I have the combined weight, and I'm just going to write that here, of 273 pounds. And I know that's both fish. I set up this little visual that's going to help me with how much each fish weighs so I can kind of problem solve that and know how I'm going to go about dividing. So AJ for our amberjack and BM for our blue marlin. I know that the amberjack weighs some certain amount. And I know that this blue marlin weighs 12 times more. So I set this up to represent the 12 times greater that the blue marlin is than the amberjack. So now I know the blue marlin is 12 times bigger than the amberjack. That means I know that we are taking one share out of the 273 for the amberjack, and we are taking 12 shares out of the 273 for the blue marlin. So that then in turn means that the amberjack gets one share. The blue marlin, which is 12 times bigger than the amberjack, gets 12 shares. So that means I am not dividing this number by 12, but I'm actually dividing it into 273 by 13. 12 for the shares that the blue marlin gets and 1 for the share that the amberjack gets. So now that I know that, I'm going to go ahead and start dividing by my 13. So 13, we know that it can't go into 2, so we start here. Now that we know we're going into 27, we're dividing into 27. I know the quotient is, is 2. 2 times 13 is 26. After I multiply, I subtract. I bring down that next little number there, that partial dividend, and I know I'm dividing into the 13. In fact, it goes one time. I multiply 13 times 1, I'm really backwards. I multiply 13 times 1 and I get 13. And then I go ahead and subtract and I get my 0. So now that I have all that work done, what does everything mean? Well, this 273 represents the total weight of both fish together. It's their total amount of pounds together. So I'm just going to put total weight. And then this 13, which if I would have just looked at the problem, I would have probably said 12. But the 13 represents the shares. So it's the shares that I'm splitting or divvying up the 273 pounds into. And then this 21 over here, the divisor, the 21 represents now the pounds, and it's the pounds per share. So don't just get that answer and think you're done, because now we have to go back and look at our visual and try to think, what are we going to do now with this information that we have? So this is 21 pounds and I'm going to do this per share. 21 pounds in each share. So if I know that amberjack gets 1 share, that means it gets 1 share of the 21, and then the blue marlin gets 12 of those. So I could keep going all the way until I get to 12 shares. It wants to know how much does each fish weigh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 21, and I don't even have to necessarily do this math, but I'm going to do it to show you that the amberjack gets 1 share. So therefore then the amberjack is 21. So the amberjack then is 21, and we need to do units of measurement, and we're talking pounds, abbreviation LBS. And then the blue marlin, which was 12 times bigger, so it doesn't get 1 share of the 21, it actually gets 12 shares. And 12 times 21, I can go ahead and stack it here and do the work to the side, even though I know what the answer is. But I'll go ahead and do it, and we get 2. 2 times 2 is 4. That should have a multiplication sign. We cross those out. This is 1 and 2. Last step is to add. We get 2, 5, and 2. So that means the blue marlin is 252 pounds because it is 12 times bigger than this amberjack. I can even add those numbers together, and I should get my original total weight of 273. And I do, which is the total weight. So let's talk about some common mistakes. Common mistakes that I see students make is they'll just take 2 numbers that you could do really quickly and not really read and understand the just, and just divide. And if you would have done that, you would have had 273 divided by 12, and you wouldn't have given the 1 share to the amberjack. And then what some students will do is they will fail to label or even incorrectly label the units of measurement. So say for instance they got 21, they might just say like 21 fish, or they'll just have no label at all. So make sure you are labeling and make sure you're reading the problem to get the gist. Now that we have that, let's look at practice problem number 1. This one, although you're doing it with me, I want you to do it step by step, pausing and then playing as instructor or as you do one more thing. So first I'm reading this through. Jason and Murray and Dana went fishing. Dana caught a red snapper. Jason caught a tuna with the weight of 3 times as great as the weight of the red snapper. Murray caught a sailfish with the weight 12 times as great as the weight of the red snapper. If the combined weight of the 3 fish is 208 pounds, how much did the tuna weigh? So now I'm going to read it again, trying to understand the problem a little bit more. Jason, Murray, and Dana went fishing. Okay, I see 3 people going fishing. Got it. Dana caught a red snapper. I see Dana and I see him with his little red snapper. I'm not sure if it's little, but I see him with his red snapper in his hand. Jason caught a tuna with the weight that was 3 times as great as the weight of the red snapper. So I know Jason's tuna here is going to be 3 times bigger than Dana's red snapper. And then Murray caught a sailfish with a weight 12 times as much as the weight of the red snapper. So I know Murray's fish is bigger than Dana's red snapper. In fact, it's 12 times bigger. So I know Murray's fish is going to be bigger than all of theirs. It's going to be 12 times bigger than Dana's. Next, my information is if the combined weight of the 3 fish is 208 pounds, how much did the tuna weigh? So I'm going to set up my little chart, and it's not for 2 fish. It's actually comparing 3, or divvying up that number into 3. So I'm not going to write abbreviations or acronyms for the names. I'm going of the people, but of the fish, because it's talking about how much the tuna weigh. And because it wants to know how much the tuna weighs, I'm going to put a little asterisk there that tells me that's really the information that I'm trying to find out. And then we're going to put an SF for sailfish. So I'm going to write this in the corner because that is my reminder of it's 208 pounds for all fish. If I have the red snapper at 1, because it's just 1 share, and I have the tuna, and I'm going to go ahead and stack it like this, not only gets the 1, but it gets 1, 2, 3. And then the sailfish not only gets the 1, not only gets the 2, not only gets the 3, but it is, in fact, 12 times bigger than the red snapper. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up like that. Now that I have that information, how am I going to divide or divvy up this 208 so that all the fish get their share that they deserve? Well, if the red snapper gets 1 share and the tuna gets 3 shares and the sailfish gets 12 shares, then I know to divide these pounds amongst all the fish, I have to add all of these together, which would give me 12, 15, and 16. So now I know what I'm dividing by. I'm dividing the 208 by 16. Please go ahead and pause here and you can do the work and then check back in after you have divide and see if you're doing it correctly. I know that I can't divide into the 16, so I'm dividing into the 20. It goes one time. Make sure that's lined up over that. 16 times 1 is 16. After I multiply, I subtract. And of course, after I subtract, I see if there's something else to bring down. There's that partial dividend. I'm going to go ahead and bring it down. If you need to, at this point, you figure out what you're dividing into and you need to do some work to the side to multiply to see what your quotient would be, you can do that. Me, though, I know that it's going to be 3. So now 16 times 3, I know that that's 48. And after I multiply, I subtract. Nothing else to bring down, so I'm done. But what does all this information mean? The 208 is the total weight of all, not 2, but 3 fish. So it's the total pounds that's shared by all 3 fish. The 16 is the shares, because it's not just shared equally among the 3 fish because they all weigh different amounts. The 16 is the shares that's shared amongst all of them, with sailfish having 12 of those shares, tuna having 3 of those shares, and the red snapper having 1 of those shares. So 16 is the number of shares that I'm dividing or splitting the 208 pounds into. And then the 13 now then is the pounds. And it's the pounds not of one fish, it's the pounds per share. So thinking about that again, that means each share is going to have 13 pounds. So 13 there, 13 here, and it's going to have that 3 times. And then 13 here, and I can keep going for 12 times. So it asks, though, if I not only look at my asterisk as my reminder, but I look at the question, it asks only about the weight of the tuna. So now that I know each fish gets or each fish, how many shares they have, and that a share is 13 pounds, I'm going to do the work only for the tuna fish. So the tuna fish is the 13 pounds, but it gets that 3 times. So that means the tuna fish would be, and I can do the work to the side. I'll go ahead, do the work to the side, and I get 39. So now after I get that, I'm going to go ahead and say the tuna is 39, and don't forget your pounds. And you can write out pounds or you can do the abbreviation, which is LBS. Now that I've done that, let's tackle this last practice problem. Dwayne has 12 times as many baseball cards as Tony. Between them, they have 208 baseball cards. How many baseball cards does each boy have? I'm going to go through it one more time and get the gist and understand what's going on. Dwayne has 12 times as many baseball cards as Tony. So when I think about it, Dwayne has more cards. In fact, he has 12 times more cards than Tony. So I know Dwayne's going to have the larger amount. But between them both, they have 208 baseball cards. So I'm even imagining that they have 208 cards all together between them. Maybe they put their cards in the middle of the rug. How many baseball cards does each boy have? Go ahead and pause here, do the work, and then check back in. So now to look at the work that you should have did with my answers here, let's explain it a little bit. I knew that there was Tony and Dwayne. I knew that they had 208 total cards between all of them. And I knew that Dwayne had 12 times more. So if Tony has this 1 share, Dwayne has 12 times more than that. And I know 12 plus 1 is 13. So that means I have to split the 208 cards by 13 shares. Once I did my division and my work, I got 16. Thinking about what everything means, it's 208 total cards, 13 shares, 16 cards in each share. So 16 here, 16 in each of these. After I do that, I had to end up multiplying to see what Tony got. He had 1 share, which is 16. Dwayne had 12 shares. That means times 16, it's 192. Therefore, that's my answer. So go ahead and make sure you have all this. Bring it to class tomorrow for your homework credit, and I will see you there.